Hello, my name is Allison Head, and I am going to share with you all my journey with Nearpod. Nearpod is my new to me, never used tech tool. So I discovered Nearpod during this course. I actually remember at the beginning of this course, lots of people were posting things and talking about Nearpod, and I wasn't sure what it was, but I did remember that I had seen it on my teacher class links page and that I had heard upper elementary teachers at my school discussing successes with Nearpod. So with that, I wanted to look into what Nearpod was and if it was applicable for my kindergarten babies. So the first place I went was commonsense.org. It gave them a 5-star learning and community rating, which is very well or very good. I also looked at Nearpod's blog, and there were two standout topics in this blog, and it was gamified activities without multi-tab clicking and the idea of less time clicking and planning and more time teaching and building relationships. And that was in reference to all of the resources that Nearpod already has created for teachers. Ultimately, I did decide to go with Nearpod. One of the top reasons was that student engagement. Kindergartners need simple technology. The more clicks that these 5 and 6-year-olds have, the less engaged that they become. And then the second reason was for the assessments and the data that Nearpod is able to provide using live participation or the student-paced feature. Formative assessments could be given and data can be collected to guide instruction. So in my exploration of Nearpod, I really relied heavily on 3 things. One was my coach that I found in this course. The second one was actually my outside PLN. It was the Nearpod Facebook group that I am still a part of. I still follow because it is such a great resource for Nearpod. And then the third one was actually Nearpod itself, its YouTube page, its help desk, and their website. They have so many helpful tools on their website for teachers. And then I also have looked at Nearpod and its website on my own time. You can see here I'm looking up rhyming activities for kindergarten, and when I actually did this, I was able to pick an activity, preview it, see what all Nearpod was even about, because in the beginning I had no idea. See all of the activities that Nearpod offered within lessons. What games did they have? How would I even present this to my students? So I was able to see, okay, there's a live feature and a student-paced feature. There were more activities that I could access. So it was just really good to go in myself to the website and explore it. Then I also looked at the evaluation table for Nearpod. I ended up giving them a 12 out of 16 for their overall evaluation and a 37 out of 54 for their categorical evaluation. Their strengths were their technical side and then the social teaching and cognitive presences. Those were all scored very well. The weaknesses, however, were mobile design, and then data protection and privacy. So with that being said, I was super excited to adopt Nearpod because of those strengths and the technical side, the social and the teaching and the cognitive presences. But I was leery about adopting it because of the mobile design. And really the big one for me was that data protection and privacy on that evaluation table. So then I looked into how could I make Nearpod meaningful for my kiddos. And one of the big things was all of these different ways that I can engage kiddos. You can see here there's several different activities that can be embedded into Nearpod or even just pushed out as an activity on its own. So having all of those options was really encouraging for the engagement of my kiddos. The next question is, how do my kids even access it? So looking into this, I knew that my kiddos already knew how to use Google Classroom. They knew how to get to it. They knew how to find the activity based on the emoji that I labeled the activity with. So that worked really well. They would go onto Google Classroom, they could select the Nearpod link that I put in, and it would take them straight to the activity where all they had to do was type in their name and press the blue button, which for kindergarten, that is perfect. I can say, type your name, press the blue button, and they knew exactly what to do. So that's how they actually received the activities that I would push out. And then the activities that I actually did get to do with my kiddos, and the most meaningful things that I got to do was gamification, whole group interactive instruction, and then actually using that data or those formative assessments for my instruction. Now, this all ties into Universal Design for Learning, or the UDL. As far as engagement, all of those tools that I just spoke about are ways to keep those kiddos engaged. One of the top ones was gamification, but it also allows for the choice in their presentation of knowledge. Maybe they can't do it as well in the draw it, but they can match pairs. They can fill in the blank. So there were different ways to show their knowledge there and increase that engagement. And as far as representation, there are multiple media presentation available in Nearpod. And then there's also tools like the immersive reader capability that help with that representation. And then the last part of UDL is action and expression. So there's a variety of assessments that can be used on Nearpod, and those are all wonderful alternatives to the traditional paper and pencil, or even in kindergarten, not necessarily paper and pencil, but having to pull them one-on-one to pull out of them what they know. The first activity that we did in my class was a gamification activity. So this was actually recommended to me by my coach and by that Facebook group. So we did the time to climb game for making 10. And in just a second, I'll pop quickly to the slide that shows the celebration of one of my kiddos after he won. And you can hear in the background and in his voice just the excitement and the engagement that this game had. Now, I will say, this game was not without its fail. I thought that it was like Kahoot, so I had it on my projector for all of the kiddos. The game started, and then all of a sudden, all this data started popping up on the projector. All of the kids' computers had the game happening on them. So I quickly realized that, well, this isn't like Kahoot. They don't need my projector. The whole game is happening on their screens. After that little mess up, the game kept going smoothly, and you can hear here this celebration.
Yes! Yes! Did you win? Yes!
So then we looked at, after the game was over, I got to look at the teacher view of the data. So I could look at the summary, I could look at the activity reports. You can see that I had a 79 average score on this. And I was able to look at that student view or that summary view. And then I could also go back up to the top and I could look at individual students and their student reports. Here I could see what questions they answered, or like this kiddo, what questions they did not answer, what they answered instead of the right answer. And this was just really helpful to see if there were any misconceptions in the classroom. So that was great to see. The second activity that I did was a self-paced video and questions. Again, it wasn't without its fail, just like the first time I did Nearpod. This was the second time. I did not enable any immersive readers. I didn't turn on any read aloud capabilities. So in this video, it would play a video, stop, and then they would have to answer a question. Well, my kids are in kindergarten and not all of them could read the questions. So I had to rotate the room the entire time and read those questions to the kiddos, which actually was helpful to me, just to see kind of where everyone was, and how they were doing. But it went really well. It was like a 13-minute video. They went through, they answered the questions. And then you can see here, I had 85% participation in that. Usually when we watch a video, we sit on the carpet and we watch it. I might ask questions throughout the video, but when we did it on Nearpod, everybody had to answer the questions. If they didn't answer the questions, the video would not keep playing. So that's why my participation was at 85%, because if they stopped answering questions, or if they didn't finish the video by the time was up and I ended the lesson, then they didn't have that full participation. But they did really well with it. You can see I had a 100, a 70, a 90, a 100, and then the data kept going from there. So I thought that was really great and an alternative way to get data while watching a video. On this lesson, this was actually my favorite. I did a whole group lesson, which I didn't even know was possible with Nearpod, but here you can see how I can assign it in Google Classroom, which is how my kids access it. And in this lesson, it would not only play things on my screen and their computers would say eyes up front, but then they would look on their computer and they would have to answer questions in a variety of formats. So there was matching pairs. There were pages where they had to draw the answer. On several of these through here, they're having to draw the answer. And then at the end of this lesson, it actually ended, of course, in a favorite way for the kiddos, in a time to climb lesson. So they really enjoyed the difference that this activity was in comparison to other whole group math lessons. You know, they all got to have their computer, and that's just the best thing in the world. And then it ended with a game. So they were very excited about this, and I got some great data from it. You can see my total participation was 90%, which is amazing for a kindergarten class of 21 kids, that 90% of them were participating in this whole group lesson. And then you can also see that as the lesson went on this last draw it lesson on the screen, it was at 88% participation, which you can attribute to fatigue, or maybe they didn't know that answer, but I could go into the student reports and dive into that a little deeper to see. On this next slide, it will play another video of the excitement going around in the room, but ultimately me saying, yes, I will adopt Nearpod. My kiddos asked to do it every single week. The tools that you would need for adoption are one-to-one student devices, or enough for a small group. You would need headphones for students. And as far as who would benefit from Nearpod, they have resources in their library for pre-K all the way up to college level. So really anyone can benefit from Nearpod. And then going back to my concerns about Nearpod, the mobile design, the data, the privacy, and the protection, those ultimately would not prevent me from adopting the tool, mainly because my kids in kindergarten aren't using a mobile device. And then also they are able to access the Nearpod through Google Classroom without having to create a Nearpod account. The data that would hurt would be on my end. They have my lessons if I create any lessons, and my privacy. They have my username and my password. But like I said, it wouldn't prevent me from adopting the tool. There are areas that they could improve on those things, but I will still adopt. As far as the useful instructional strategies with Nearpod and the reason for my adoption, it really increased that student engagement, which is really what I was looking for. And then the instructional strategy used would be that interactive teaching with the use of Nearpod. Any professional development that would be needed if the whole school adopted Nearpod would just be the encouragement for teachers to join that Nearpod Facebook group. That's where I've gotten a lot of my help. And then for there to be a school-based Nearpod coach. A coach really helped me. And I think that if there was one knowledgeable person within the school to help everyone else, that would be very beneficial. Maybe some initial meetings about Nearpod and what the tool is, so that there's not any misconceptions like I had in January of this year when I started this new tech tool journey. If I had a coach at the beginning to tell me what Nearpod is, I would have cleared up a lot of my misconceptions. So in January, I actually said, I thought Nearpod might add variety, interest, and engagement to student learning during my class tech time. We need simple and easy to use websites that are also fun. From my understanding, Nearpod can be used for some formative assessments also and is great for student engagement. It should make technology easier for my kiddos and may provide data to guide my instruction. So yes, absolutely, it provides that engagement, but my misconception in January was that Nearpod was just another app that my kiddos could get on. So if you had a professional development and a coach at the beginning of the school's Nearpod journey, it would clear up that misconception. Whereas it took me exploring the app to get that understanding of, wow, Nearpod is really used to teach kids, to assess kids, and connect with kids, whether that's in a whole group setting or in a small group setting, whether it's the kids recording themselves on Flip and sending it to you through Nearpod. There are just so many possibilities with Nearpod, and I'm really looking forward to adopting it into my classroom and using it further. Thank you.